Let's so please go through this, how to achieve encapsulation, how to implement encapsulation. These are the points. So declaring instance variables of the class as a private so that it cannot be accessed directly by anyone from outside the class. Provide the public setter and getter methods in a class to set and modify the values of the variables and fields. Since getter and setter methods are widely used in Java programming language. So that's the main setter and getter methods. So just go through this and so let's discuss about the next topic is Java constructor. So what is a constructor? Constructor is a special type of method in Java, so which is used to initialize the state of the object. You want to initialize the state of the object, you can use a constructor. You can use a constructor. So anything you want to initialize objects, you will use a constructor. So constructor is invoked at the time of object creation. So when you're creating object, so that time object is, so see that. So here, this is the constructor, right? This is the constructor. This part is constructor, parameterized constructor. So object time it is invoking. So you are calling in the object line. That's an invocation. Invoking the constructor at the time of object creation. So that's what this point is pointing. Java constructor is invoked at the time of object creation. It constructs the values and also provides data for the object. That's why it is known as a constructor. It constructs the values. So based on the data type of your variable, and it constructs the default values or parameterized value means parameter data. Whatever you give, that will set it. So another way to set your instance variable values is through constructor. One is through setter method. Another way through constructor. You can set with a constructor your instance variable values. How to do that, I'll show you now. So what are the rules you need to follow when creating the constructor? Constructor name must be same as its class name. You can see this. Class name, constructor name is same. And there should be no return type, no explicit return type. That's the constructor. And in the constructor line or inside, you cannot use a static final abstract keywords you should not use. Java constructor cannot be abstract, cannot be static, final and synchronous. These keywords you should not use. These are the three rules you have to follow about constructor. Types of Java constructors, we have two types: default constructor, parameterized constructor. So default constructor means a constructor that have no parameters is known as a default constructor. Now you can see here, this is the default constructor. So every class has its own constructor. So even though there is no constructor here and you called here, see that this is the default constructor. So default constructor. So how is it possible? A compiler will create one default constructor automatically. By default, when you create a class, default constructor will be created. Even if you don't create, it will create automatically compiler. So compiler will create a default constructor. If a class has a default constructor, so while creating object, no need to pass any parameters. This is the default constructor, right? So that's the default constructor values. Okay. Now, if there is no constructor in a class, compiler automatically creates a default constructor. Compiler automatically creates a default constructor. So how to call this constructor? Class name, reference variable equal to new class name. Now this is the default constructor. So why do you need default constructor? So basically it constructs the default values. That's the purpose of default constructor. So based on the object type, if it is a integer, 0, if it is a string, null, depending on the type. So then parameterized constructor. A constructor that have parameters, that is known as a parameterized constructor. You can see this is the parameterized constructor. So how many parameters here? Only one parameter. So a constructor also similar kind of method. So but it's not a method. Okay, the constructor is so similar to a method, but special type of method, not a method. So that's the parameterized constructor. So what is the purpose of parameterized constructor? So a parameterized constructor, how can you create? Access modifier, class name, parenthesis, data type, parameter 1, comma, data type, parameter 2, and so on. How many constructors, how many parameters you want for your constructor, you can declare them. See, access modifier, then directly class name you are writing. Why you need to use parameterized constructor? So parameterized constructor is used to provide different values to distinct object. Each object you can pass different values. That is the advantage of parameterized constructor. If a class has a parameterized constructor, while creating object for a class, so you need to provide parameter values. See, this parameter 1 value. So don't provide again data type, only parameter value, then parameter 2 value, parameter 3 value. So that's what we did here. So while creating object, and that time itself I passed the parameter value. So that is string type. See that this name data type is a string. So that value I passed it here. So that's a parameterized constructor. So constructor overloading, another concept in Java. Constructor overloading. What is constructor overloading? It is one of the technique in which, so Java, so a class can have n number of constructors. So a class can have n number of constructors, but they will differ by number of parameters list or parameter data type should be different. One constructor or another constructor. So for example, one constructor has a 0 parameters, next constructor in the same class, because name is same, right? Constructor name is same. So first constructor without parameters, second constructor 1 parameter, third constructor with 3 parameters, fourth constructor with 5 parameters. So like the parameter count or parameter data type should be different. At least one parameter data type should be different. For example, if the same parameter list, so two constructors having same parameter count, 2, but at least one parameter data type should be different. Even the parameter count is same, but parameter data type should be different. Then you can achieve constructor overloading. So how can you achieve constructor overloading? So the compiler will differentiate these constructors by taking into account the number of parameters in the list and their data type. That's a constructor overload. So what is the difference between constructor and a method? So constructor is used to initialize the state of the object. Method is used to expose the behavior of the object. So constructor must not return any type. Method must have to return a value, right? So it will return something. Constructor is invoked implicitly. That means automatically it will be invoked. Method is invoked explicitly. You have to call the method. Explicitly you are calling. So this one, the object line itself, it is calling. Java compiler provides a default constructor if you don't have in the class. But method is not provided by compiler in any case. There is no default methods. You have to create. Constructor name must be same as a class name. Method name may or may not be as a class name. So there are some quiz I applied. So go through this quiz also you do that. Okay. So let's go and do that practical session here. So I'll create a student class, student.java. See, student has string name, string ID, string branch, so double fee. So these are the few variables I declared, and I'm going to create a default constructor. So public student dot out dot println. So this is a default constructor. So then I'll create one public method, display details. So maybe student details I'm going to display. So this is a non-static variable. I can call non-static variable in the non-static method directly. So let's call that sys out. And so displaying student details. So sys out, and you can see student name, just call name. Student ID, plus I can call like this dot ID. So it will represent the current class ID, current class instance variable. This dot ID means, what is mean by this? Current class instance variable. This, if you write any variable before, that means this ID representing instance variable. So very simple to understand that. So even if you write directly branch, internally it will call again this dot branch. So internally it will call like this dot branch. So that's the meaning of, even if you write name also, this dot name it will call internally. Student fee, you can say fee. So these are some of the variables, and I'm going to create one more parameterized constructor. So protected student. So I'll give string name, comma, string, okay, ID, integer ID, right? Int ID. So I'll take these two. Okay. So I'll represent this dot name equal to name. So parameter. This dot ID equal to ID. So this one, right? ID. Type we cannot convert from what we declared ID. Oh, so it's an integer, not ID. Okay. So this is the second constructor. So third constructor I'm declaring protected student string name int ID string branch string sorry double fee, right? Fee. Double fee. Okay. So now see, already I have written a logic for these two. Again, do I need to write this? How can you avoid that? So I need to call this constructor here. Then this will be so fulfilled here. How can you call one constructor in another constructor in the same class? So this is the interview question also, and your practical, in your use cases, you will get mostly. How can you call one constructor in another constructor of the same class? So using this keyword, what is the answer? This. And parenthesis is the parameters are there, you give parameters. If parameters are not there, don't give. Now this has a parameters, right? So I have to give parameters. This and give the parameters. What are the parameters? Name and ID. So name, comma ID. That's it. Now we implement the logic for branch and fee. That's it. So this dot branch equal to branch. So you avoid the writing code again and again, right? That's what this dot fee equal to fee. So this is how you can call one constructor inside another constructor using this keyword. Okay, so these are the one of the concepts I want to cover. So now you create. So main method. Yeah, so main method. First I'm creating object student s1 equal to new student. See, I'm not giving anything. So directly s1 dot display details I'm calling. So please observe this. So what is happening here? Okay. So now call. So Java C student dot Java. Something wrong. Java C student dot Java. Semicolon expected. Which line? Did we miss anywhere semicolon? Line number. Where is line number? Line number 12. Okay. See, that's how you can catch. Compile time error. Yeah. This is really Why it is running with that one? We're calling student and it is throwing different one. Okay, so I'm switching to again Eclipse because I don't want to waste time here. Generally, you should not get these problems there, but last time we didn't get that. We are getting problems now. So here it is very simple. Quickly, you can create Java application. See, 0 and all default values allocated. So that's what the default constructor will construct the default values. Okay. So let's create object for second. I'm going to use constructor. Okay. See here I'm going to use S2 and this is S3, S2, S3 and here values I'm giving. See, I can give Kumar. So ID is 1, 2, 3. That's it, right? The first constructor. Here I'm going to give different. So Sanjit, and I can give 2, 3. And next one is branch, right? You see, and fee 34.46, right? So something you can give that. See, now you are setting the values in using constructor. One way is through setter methods. The other way is through parameterized constructor. You can set it. So that the values, see these, all these values, how you are getting through parameterized constructor. In the constructor itself, you are setting. So let's execute this. See that? So here, first time all null value, because string default value is null. Integer default value is 0. String default value null. So double default value is 0.0. See now here, student name Kumar, ID. But this value we didn't provide. That's why default values it is constructed. So here see you provide all the values. The values are constructed properly. So it's set for these variables. These variables it's set. How it is possible? You already did that logic in the constructor inside. So you did a logic in the constructor inside. It will go and set the value when you call this constructor. Now here, this one is calling third constructor. This one. And second one is calling second constructor. This one. And first one is the default constructor it is calling. So that's all about constructor. Here also another third exercise is create a selfie video explaining about what is constructor, what are the rules of constructor and types of constructors, what is constructor overloading, and what is the difference between constructor and method. So create a 2 to 5 minutes below your selfie video and share it with me. And next exercise, the practice. Practice, you record your screen. Okay, and show me different constructors how to create. And also this one is constructor overloading, right? See, the class has a multiple constructors, and see the constructor name is same, but what is the difference? Here 0 parameters, here 2 parameters. So here 4 parameters. So this is the constructor overloading. That means one class has a multiple constructors, but they are differing with the parameter list. So that's the constructor overloading. Explain this and show me in the, so you take any example and show me, or you practice this and record a session while you are doing this one and explain your understanding how to call one constructor in another constructor, explain that and what you are doing here and explain that, and just record and share that video in our group. Okay. So this is the third exercise. Okay. Any questions here? So before going for inheritance, just theory we'll cover, then we'll do programming tomorrow. So inheritance means basically it happens between two classes, one child class, one parent class. Parent class properties can be used in the child class without creating whatever you created there in the parent class. You don't need to create them in the child class. You can reuse them here without creating the methods and variables. That is called inheritance. Basically, so inheritance is a mechanism that allows a class to inherit the properties and methods from another class. Another class properties you can use in the child class. So it promotes code reusability and establishes a hierarchical relation between the two classes. It maintains easy relationship. So the class which inherits the properties of other is known as a subclass, child class, derived class, we call that. And the class whose properties are inherited, that is called superclass or base class or parent class, we call that. So that's the inheritance means private members cannot be accessible in the child classes. If you have a private members in the parent class, you cannot access them in the child class. So how you can show the relationship between the two classes? So you can use a extends keyword. So superclass and a subclass extends superclass. So this is the parent class, this is the child class. So whatever you declared here, and you can directly call this has a privilege to use the parent class methods. Like, all your parents properties you can access, that's inherit. So you have a privilege to use your parents properties. So the same here. So this is a single inheritance. So subclass extends superclass. This is called inheritance. So advantage of inheritance is reusability of the code. So you don't need to create same code again in the child class. You can reuse the whatever parent class is there, that you can reuse. And you can achieve runtime polymorphism or method overriding. So what are the types of inheritances? So there are different types of inheritances: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance. Single inheritance means class A extends to class B. Just now I have shown you. So you have to separate class A and then class B extends A. That means, so what is meant by this? B has a privilege to use all the properties and methods of A into B. So that's the single inheritance. So any one class extends another class. Multi-level inheritance. So suppose you have A, B, C, three classes. Class A, class B extends to A, class C extends to B. That means class B parent is A, class C parent is B. Now, class B can access A methods and properties. Class C can access B properties and A properties also. So like a grandfather, father, and child. So this is the multi-level inheritance. So the child can access father properties, grandfather properties also. So that's the multi-level inheritance. So hierarchical inheritance. So basically, hierarchical inheritance means one class, one parent class, one parent might have multiple kids, right? Multiple childs. So each child can access the parent properties. That is called hierarchical inheritance. So class B extends A, class C extends A. That means one class properties can be accessed in multiple child classes. That is called hierarchical inheritance. So multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is not possible in case of class. Why it is not possible? Because to avoid the confusion, to make design very simple, and they are not supporting at all multiple inheritance. Don't confuse with the multi-level, multiple. So here also one class extends one class only, but here multiple inheritance means one class extends multiple classes. That is called multiple inheritance. So Java doesn't support multiple inheritance in case of class, but in case of interface, it will support. That we'll discuss. I'll show you there in the interface time. So why it doesn't support, I have given already. The reason for that is to make the design very simple and to avoid confusion, and they are not supporting the multiple inheritance. So why it doesn't support? Give explanation, they will ask. Suppose if you have A, B, C, 3 classes. In A class, you have M1 method, M2 method, and B class also has M1 and M2 method. Now you extended class C extends A comma B. Now you are calling M1 method. So M1 method is there in the A class and B class, but which class method it has to call? Then compiler gets confusion there. To avoid that confusion, they are not supporting at all. So that's the multiple inheritance, why class doesn't support. So this is a very important interview question. Please make a note that. So, okay, how can you call parent class static members, and static members means static variables and static methods in the child class? Generally one class static variables, how can you call in another class?
By using the static keyword.
No.
Class name using
Already declared, sir. In the class A, you declared static variables and static methods, sir. How can you?
Class name dot variable name or the method name.
Exactly. Class name dot that static variable, or class name dot static method, right? But in the inheritance, you can call directly static method and static variable. You don't need to refer the class name. That is this. So inheritance process advantage. So then how can you call non-static members and non-static methods? So you can first have to create object for child class, not for parent class, to call the non-static methods and non-static variable of parent class and child class, both class objects. If you want to call, just create object for child class only, and that reference variable you use to call both class instance variables and instance methods. That's a simple. If you call, so what will happen if I create a parent class object? Then you cannot call child class objects. You can call only parent class objects. So that's why in the inheritance process, if you want to call both class non-static methods and non-static variables, you have to create object only for child class. Then you can call both with that single reference object. You can call both class non-static methods and non-static variables. Okay, so that's all about inheritance theoretical part. And so make this also another selfie video and explain about what is inheritance and what is the advantage of inheritance, how you can achieve inheritance, and what are the different types of inheritances, why Java doesn't support inheritances, how you can call static variables in the inheritance process, how you can call non-static variables and non-static methods in the inheritance process. Please explain in detail. Okay, so that's a selfie video. So total, how many you got exercises?
6. Mobile program, regarding create a mobile program, class and objects, then call one constructor in another constructor, then inheritance.
So
and,
every
practice
of every concept, right? So one record, not selfie video. Theoretical is a selfie video, and a record session is a practical session. Okay. So don't miss all this. So please do all these exercises. Yeah.